All right. You know, surprising. It looks nice outside, but it's really kind of cold still out there. 24 minutes before 11 o'clock. And speaking of the climate, this is the show where we talk about climate control, because Climate Control Mechanical Services is represented today by Brandon Wood and Josh Tackett. They're here to answer your questions about air conditioning and heating and everything associated with keeping the air healthy, including getting the air clean and germ-free. We kind of learned a few things in the past few weeks about those things. If you have a question for Brandon or Josh, the phone number here is the WOCA Climate Control Source Hotline, 352-622-9622. And Brandon and Josh, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Make sure I got your microphones turned on. How it's still cold out there? You just came in. It's still cool, right? Still chilly out there?
It's starting to warm up a little bit.
Do you guys work on your own air conditioners at your own homes?
I don't.
No?
Absolutely.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. I mean, I have before, but
Yeah.
it's an apartment, so it's just like...
Oh, I got you. So
they do it, but, you know, a lot of times you ask something for them to do, they just kind of like... They're not really... They don't do it because it's like a rental, so...
Oh, no.
Anything else costs...
There you go. Just pull that mic. You're both kind of far from the microphones there, so... There you go. We in the past few weeks we've talked about the quality of air and the cleanliness as far as what the filter gets out of it, and then the germs as far as what the ultraviolet light can get out of it. Are there things that take? I know this might sound like way out of left field, but are there things that can take a bad odor out of the air?
Certain the UV systems can. If you get a certain type of UV system where it's actually an air purifier too, it actually breaks down chemical compounds like odors and smells.
Oh, really?
And like cleaning supply odors, pet dander, pet odors. If you have small children, or really any kind of odors in your house.
Because you know when you go to a hotel, I don't know how many motels you guys stay in, but every once in a while you'll get a hotel that'll say, "Do you want a smoke-free room or a smoking room?" Well, I always smoke-free, right? It still smells funny in there to me, musty or something, and I always think, why don't they have some kind of a system to clean the smell of the air? And it sounds like there is something. They just obviously are not using it.
Yeah, with those type of applications, they use, most of the hotel rooms use the self-contained commercial window units.
That window thing, yeah.
And yeah, I'm sure they make some sort of UV system where they can put inside of that unit somewhere where it actually cleans the air as it goes through. But the smoking rooms definitely are a little bit more musty. Hotel rooms in general seem to be a little more musty because of the self-contained units.
Mm-hmm. Is there any way to impress upon me or anybody listening the correlation between thermostat settings and the bill at the end of the month? In other words, if my mom's house is empty right now, we're preparing it to be sold, but before I leave, I always set the thermostat on a certain setting, and then at the end of the month I get this bill and I go, that doesn't seem right, there's nobody there. So maybe if I put it up or down 2 degrees, would it make a big difference?
Sometimes it can. For one, it depends on where you live. Like the city of Ocala has extremely high electrical rates for their electricity. Ocala City Power. But it does make a big difference. Usually like a happy medium in the summertime is like 76 degrees, but if you keep it at 78, you will save money. Versus 74, you will spend a little more money.
A little bit of temperature difference, huh?
Yeah, especially in the winter time too, because the houses are heating a house is more expensive than actually cooling a house.
Oh, really?
Heat pump systems, yeah, it can be.
Is it because of the heat pump? In other words, if we had a furnace, would it? Well, that wouldn't apply, obviously, if you had a...
Well, fuel prices have gone up. With furnaces, you have fuel prices for propane or natural gas, so that's gone up. With heat pumps, the heat pump itself actually draws a little more power when it's in heating mode versus cooling mode. And for some reason, you could have the exact same insulated house, but the heat tends to escape the house more than the air conditioning does.
There was a story this morning, not to change the subject, but a church had the copper stolen from its outside unit, and now they're trying to raise money to get that put back in place. That seems like it's a pretty expensive theft if you're a victim of that, huh?
Well, a lot of them, if you steal a unit, there's not much you can do. I mean, nowadays.
Well, they stole the copper, though. Is that...
They can take the line set, they can scrap the copper, but when it comes to the actual coils and stuff, you have to be a licensed contractor now. They'll check your they'll ask for it, at the scrap yard. You'd pretty much have to go through cycles. You'd have to know people. If you were to steal it and say, hey, man, I'm really good friends with this contractor, he can just scrap it and give me the money, then people get away with it. You know, then there's people that probably are that shady that would do something like that. You know, it's wrong. I don't think it's right, but there's people out there like that.
Does it ever just need to be replaced? Like, it just goes bad? Does it get pit holes in it and stuff?
There's some times where we've had them underground, and you know they're rubbing together. A lot of people won't insulate them when they shove them through the chase. So when they rub them, you know, they're rubbing together, constantly vibration, and then spring a leak underground. You know, and we have to tell the customer, hey, you know, you got a leak, and they're like, well, it's not that old. It could be 4 or 5 years old, and then someone reused the old line set from 10 years ago, and now the line set's 14 years old, but their system's 4 years old, so now we got to cut the line set, go overhead with it. And,
oh, really?
Yeah.
The only other time we replace line sets is when we're switching refrigerants, too. Most systems, the older systems out there, are R22 refrigerant, and that's being phased out due to environmental reasons. The government is actually saying no more HFCs in the atmosphere, and they've come out with a new refrigerant that's supposed to be cleaner and just cleaner refrigerant as far as the atmosphere goes. And they're phasing that out, but the two oils in each refrigerant do not mix. So every time we do an install, we have to replace the line set from 22 to 410A.
Does the refrigerant itself, is it corrosive?
The refrigerant itself, no. I've never seen actually the refrigerant corrosive. Now, the only time it can be corrosive is when you have what's called a burnout, when the compressor actually burns out and shorts to ground on the inside and actually puts a positive charge into the refrigerant and creates an acid.
Oh, wow.
That acid can actually start to eat through copper. You have to do what's called an acid test and then flush the system out very thoroughly, even when you say you have a burnout and you replace the compressor. Before you go ahead and replace that compressor, you have to flush the entire system to make sure you got any residual acid out of the system.
Oh, wow. Now, how does that happen? Is it user mistake? Like, if I try to fix something and I bump something?
No, it's just the internals of the compressor. It's old compressor, faulty mechanical errors that go wrong, a compressor drawing too many amps. There can be many different reasons why a compressor would short to ground.
Do you ever go on a call to a home and somebody in the home said, I can fix this, and they used the car refrigerant in the home unit? And what, if so, does that cause a problem? Is it even possible to do that? It
would pretty much sludge their unit up. I mean, you're taking two different types of refrigerants. You got R134A and you got 410A or R22. You put those two blends together, you're going to create a sludge, and then it's going to backfire on them.
Oh, really? Right? Yeah. Would they know it right away?
Probably within a couple days. It would probably just, you'll notice.
So Uncle Johnny needs to stay away.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's getting his car, because, I mean, how many guys just think, well, it's got to be the same thing, it cools down the car nicely? And
well, it actually has a label, actually a big label. You know, because if a lot of people have made that mistake, they'll have R22 in their hoses, and they're like, okay, I'm going to this system, and then hook right up, and you got R22 in the 410A system now. And then a lot of times if you cut the lines and you're trying to, you know, replace this compressor now that it failed, you'll see a lot of nasty sludge and stuff that's built up in the lines, and yeah, it's pretty nasty.
Okay, so I guess I'm having a hard time picturing what the refrigerant actually is. It's a liquid.
It's a liquid and a gas. I mean, well, when 410A, when you charge it, you have to charge it as a liquid. And that's just how it is. R22 you can charge as a vapor or a liquid.
Wow.
But it's kind of like when you see it ooze out, it's like kind of looks like water, but then when it hits something, it like ices everything. So it's...
Wow.
Yeah.
Refrigerant R22 has an extremely low boiling off point. It is a liquid in a sealed cylinder. Once it hits the atmosphere, it boils off at minus 210 degrees Fahrenheit. So you can see both of us have refrigerant burns because it's so cold. If you get the liquid on you, it will actually burn you.
Oh, my goodness. So you've had it hit you?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. You got to be careful when you take off
It'll blister your hands right here. Like most of the time when you're going like this, it's gonna gas out and hit your hand and get it all over you.
Now I remember a demonstration somewhere where this lady was showing how liquid nitrogen can freeze a rose so solidly that you could smash it with a hammer and it would break like glass. And she did. She took an actual real rose, put it into this liquid nitrogen just a microsecond, just pushed it in, pulled it out, then took a hammer and smashed it, and it broke like it was glass. And she was doing that with a few things. It was kind of a fun demonstration.
That would be pretty cool.
Is that the same thing?
I would, if I got a canister, because I know like in chemistry class they had these special canisters that held liquid nitrogen. I would love to try that. I don't think the boiling point is quite as low as liquid nitrogen, but it's just as cold. If you got it as a pure liquid, it would be boiling off, and you could stick pretty much anything in it and it will freeze instantly.
But the reason it works, help me understand the science. What I hope this is not too boring, but I'm curious. The way I understand it to work is it's evaporation somehow, right? Condensation and evaporation, or no? Am I wrong about that?
That's part of it. It actually evaporates. It actually condenses. See, the liquid refrigerant, once it goes through the coil, it goes through a metering device on the inside of your home and actually turns it into a liquid and goes through the evaporator coil where it's extremely cold. This is in air conditioning mode. And the air passes over the coil, cools the air, as well as traps the moisture out of the air and condenses the moisture into water and pulls the humidity out of your air. And then it travels back through what's called a suction line to the compressor, where it actually travels back as a vapor, goes into the compressor. The compressor boosts up the pressure up to an extremely high pressure vapor. When it leaves the compressor, goes through the condenser coil. The condenser coil actually turns it into a high pressure liquid and sends it back. It's a ever revolving circle.
Are there systems that will dehumidify a home or an area but not cool it down?
There are dehumidifiers you can add to systems, and they'll just dehum the air.
I mean, we've had dehumidifiers in here. For example, when it storms out there and this pond floods, this carpet sometimes will get wet. So the maintenance man will bring in these dehumidifiers. They're standalone, and the bucket on the back has to be emptied a lot.
Well, a lot of them I've seen, there's different brands that make them, and they're actually external from the system, and one will come from the return and one will come from the supply.
What was that? Was that a phone?
That was my phone.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I see the phone ringing. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Larry.
Hey.
Refrigerant or liquid nitrogen, if you were to immerse a tennis ball for just a moment and wear a very, very thick glove, throw that tennis ball on the ground, it'll shatter like glass.
Really?
I would imagine it would.
I'd love to see that. Yeah, I guess it's the boys. We all are little boys at heart. We want to see this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Smashing. So anyway, getting back to the dehumidifier part. So the unit that you guys install, is there a switch position or something that says, look, I don't want to cool the air, I just want to dehumidify it?
A lot of them, there are like switches that you could put by the thermostat. I've seen like older ones.
Oh, really?
And they'll actually jump in with the system, and they'll try to dehum, make the air conditioner dehumidify. But then, like I said, there's ones that you can buy that are external from the system, and they're on their own thermostat. They have their own settings. They have their own,
Oh, really?
And you turn it on when you want to dehumidify the air.
But what I'm trying to ask is, the ones that we put in here, you got to empty the bucket.
Yeah.
Do those just drain outside, like, or no?
There is a separate drain line, and they'll probably connect with, the other one, depending on how the system's installed and where it's located. Every situation's different, and a lot of people honestly, we haven't sold any since I've been here. Separate dehumidifiers that I've seen.
But I wonder,
mostly not a problem in Florida because the air conditioning itself is a dehumidifier. And you can, when you get into like really high SEER systems where they have 2-speed compressors, you can actually have a dehumidification feature where it actually runs just in low speed just to dehumidify the air. Especially on, say, in the winter months when it may be cool outside, but the air humidity levels are really high, and it's like, say, 70 degrees in your house, but it's 60% humidity. So the dehum will come on, run the compressor just in low speed, but you're always, if you're using the air conditioning to dehumidify your air, you're always conditioning the air or changing the temperature just a little bit.
Yeah.
With those standalone units, you don't usually change the temperature of the air.
And I think the reason I'm asking is because I don't know if this is just an old wives' tale or whatever, but the what you hear is that if you dehumidify the air, it'll be more comfortable and you won't be spending as much on electricity.
Absolutely.
That is true. Okay.
That is true.
All right, so that's...
If you walk into 80 degrees, that's sometimes why people say, like California, the weather is so beautiful. In the summertime on the ocean, it'll be just as hot as it is here, but they keep like 45 to 50% humidity levels. Where here, it's closer to literally 100% humidity, and you get that sticky, muggy feeling.
Yeah, you get out of the ocean, you're like, man, I need a shower now. You know, you're so nasty feeling.
It's the same thing in your home.
Yeah.
And while you're conditioning your air in your home, it is also dehumidifying it at the same time.
So is the science behind an air conditioner in an arid location like Arizona different than the science here? Since you don't have to dehumidify it.
Kind of like in, like, say, Texas, like you said, Texas, Arizona, they have a totally different air conditioning systems. They don't, like, use heat pumps, and they use mostly, like, gas air conditioners, like ammonia charge and lithium bromide, and theirs is totally different. And their life expectancy is not near as long as ours. Like, ours could be, you know, 10 to 15 to 20 years, you know, depending, you know, how it is. You know, some people, they just get lucky and their equipment lasts forever.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, like in Texas, John that works with us, he's told me some stories about things that he's worked on in the past, and that's where he's from. And that's the reason I know about, because he's explained to me about how long they last, and they last about 5 to 7 years.
So do they add humidity to the air? No.
They have, like up north, they use actual humidifiers, where you can also buy, just like you can buy a dehumidifier, you can buy a humidifying unit up north. Like I said, in Florida, you would never need something like that. But a lot of people's allergies tend to be better when the air is humid. I know my grandmother used to have problems with her allergies whenever the air was really dry.
Oh, really?
So she was probably the only person I knew with a humidifier in Florida.
Oh, really?
She would humidify the air, and she felt better. So there's standalone units just like the dehumidifiers, and there's also the entirely installed units that would actually install in conjunction with your air conditioning.
We just reintroduce you guys. Brendan Wood is here. Josh Tackett is also here. They're both from Climate Control and Mechanical Services. And if you have a question about an air conditioner, or maybe something maybe along the contractual line, like we've learned about the what do you call it again? The maintenance agreement. Right? That's an important thing to mention again, I think. Give us a call right now. The WOCA phone number is WOCA's Climate Control Source Hotline, which is 622-9622. The maintenance agreement, the maintenance contract, I guess you would say, that's for 1 year, right?
Yes. Yep.
And what can we talk price? How much is that?
It's $169 for a standard system.
Okay.
Most homes in Ocala have just the one system for their whole house. It's $169 per year. That comes with 4 1-inch filters. Most people have 1-inch filters. If you have 2 or 4-inch filters, it comes with 2 2-inch filters and 1 4-inch filter.
Okay.
That comes with no overtime. That's the biggest thing our customers love, is the fact that there's no overtime. You can call me at 9 o'clock at night, and the cost of doing the repair is the same as it would be on Monday morning.
Oh, I see. Okay, not just for the scheduled when you come for the maintenance, but actually if it breaks down.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
If we have to run a service. Unfortunately, we can't permit everything from happening from just the scheduled maintenance, but it does help. We're able to test capacitors, check contactors, check the charge. We can prevent a lot of serious problems from happening.
But I bet you hate those calls, right? Those late night calls.
They're not bad. It's pretty much the only bad part about being in this business is being on call, but we know when we're on call, so we plan ahead.
Well, and you know, I mean, I know you guys handle the hospitals, and I'm sure people have their own, in their own homes, they have their medical issues. So in those cases, you kind of have no choice. You have to hurry.
Oh yeah, if the customer says, you know, you need to come out tonight and it's midnight, that's what we're on call for. We go out. Definitely the commercial guys, and we're more residential, but the commercial guys, when it comes to restaurants, and we do like all the pilot stations and hospitals, places that are 24 hours a day, they are definitely usually in the later hours on call. We don't normally get calls at midnight to a residential home because people just don't want us there at midnight. They want to sleep, they got to work. But when it comes to hospitals, things like that, it really doesn't matter what time they call. They gotta have it fixed.
I think I shared this with you before, but the need for cool air at the transmitter site is absolute. If that air conditioner goes out, we're not on the air. That's how sensitive it is. And actually, it's probably better nowadays than it was like years ago. Like we were talking before you went on there about WWKE and the history of radio. Well, back then, man, if it got warm, just warm in that building, everything went off.
Yeah, I think you were telling me you had to change the filters like once every couple of weeks.
Well, that too. Yeah, but that wasn't. Yeah, that was more the air filter in the transmitter, as opposed to the air filter in the air conditioner.
Sure.
Did you guys ever keep a separate unit in the transmitter room?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
See, a lot of people now, like with server rooms and stuff like that, what they'll do is they'll have the main system that controls the whole building, plus another system for that room.
Just in case.
Kind of, yeah, because it's so important. Without that, their server room, then they're done. They're not making no money. They're not getting things taken care of. So that's their life of their business.
Servers and computers, the server rooms, the IT room of any large business, even our server room at the shop puts out a lot of heat. And I know, like, we take care of, I do NetSource. It is a web domain company where they actually manage websites, build websites, things like that. And their server room is very large, and they have their own mini split in the server room that runs. It's kept at 68 degrees at all times.
Wow, that's
and
here in
when
Ocala?
it goes down, yeah, it's in Ocala.
Wow.
And that is the best way I've seen to be able to protect server rooms. It's got both the in-house air conditioning running into the server room and then an extra what's called a mini split. It's like a real fancy window unit, but it's got a condenser outside.
Isn't it amazing how we're all connected somehow? I mean, obviously they can't do what they do if you don't do what you do.
Oh, yeah.
We can't do what we do if you don't do what you do. I mean, isn't it amazing how we're all connected somehow? That was just my philosophical moment right there. We've got about a minute left. Do you want to give some phone numbers? And do you give out your physical location? Do people visit you at your location, or do you show up at their door?
We've had customers come to the shop if they have questions or if they need to drop off paperwork, because a lot of times, like, if we sell a system to somebody, we usually have to go on Marion County Property Appraisers, and a lot of people don't like their business out there all the time, and we can't get their information. So what they have to do is they'll have to go down to the the tax office and grab their paperwork, and then they'll have to physically give their eyes to our people and give their paperwork. A lot of people like to see eye to eye and shake hands and stuff like that. They don't like doing everything just signing a paper and say, hey, here, go install it. A lot of people, like older folks that we have, they're so used to shaking hands and hey, let's make a deal.
Face-to-face service. We don't do what's called at the desk sales. I was on a sales call this morning. If somebody calls the office and says, I'm interested in this, we will make an appointment to come to your home. And after that is usually where somebody might say, well, I want to tour the office, or I want to meet the president or the vice president. And say, well, the best way to do that is to come to the office, and we'll give you a tour of the office, show you the metal shop and things like that. Usually big, huge corporations that are interested in our business that we're doing large services for, they want to see how we work. They want to see what our office looks like. They want to see what kind of personnel we have. Which they are more than welcome to come. We are very proud of our new building. It is state of the art.
All right, excellent. So give us a phone number.
We've got 352-291-0185.
All right.
Is the best way to reach us. You can call 24 hours a day. If you can't get us there, after hours service they'll give you a phone number to call for after hours service.
Okay.
And you can leave a message and somebody will call you back shortly.
Okay, and what is the toll-free number? What does HVAC stand for?
Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning.
Okay, is that what 4822 is?
I'd have to actually look at my phone. But
I'm not really sure. It says Okay. Well, Robin has it on the
Okay.
website. I just wanted you to know. So
The best number to call is the 291-0185 number.
That would make sense to me. And for the listeners, if you missed that, need it repeated, call us. We'll be glad to tell you the phone numbers over the telephone. And also you can go online to WOCA.com, and the phone numbers are there on the guest list under Climate Control and Mechanical Services. Brandon Wood, Josh Tackett, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Another good show. We'll take a little break and be right back.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.